Hello, everybody. Welcome to the University of Calgary Faculty of Nursing. I've met probably all of you. There might be one or two that I haven't met, but I'm Catherine Lang, and I am the Associate Dean of the Undergraduate Program. And my job today is to give you just a little piece. I'm going to add a little piece to the orientation that you're having right now, just to provide perhaps a little bit more context and understanding of our program and where you fit in it, because I know that that is very confusing when you first started the university. Trust me, it took me years to figure it all out. So don't think that you have to have every piece in place after your orientation. This is just the beginning. And as long as you just know your next step, you're all good. I'd like to start with a bit of a clarification sometimes, because I think it's confusing trying to understand who to go to for what, like I said. But so my job, as I said, is the Undergraduate Associate Dean. And then there's also Dr. Zara Shijani, my colleague, who is another Associate Dean in the Undergraduate Program. And her official title is Associate Dean, Undergraduate Practice Education. That's a handful. So basically the way it boils down, what you need to know is Zara deals with all things related to practice issues. And I deal kind of with, you can think of it like operations, but I also deal with everything theory related and curriculum related that way. So between the two of us, we oversee the whole program, and you will definitely intersect with both of us, particularly if you would have, say, a struggling student that maybe kind of needed to get escalated. That would generally go to Zara, and I would handle kind of everything else. So that's sort of where it goes. You can contact either one of us for anything, and if it's more in the other person's realm, we just send you over that way, or have the other person contact you. So anyways, I just have learned over the years that I start with this so that you get a little bit more of an understanding of how everything works. So like I said, today my job is to add a little bit to the orientation. I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll go through about 8 or 9 slides. It's not terribly long, so don't worry, it won't be too painful, I hope. And get rid of me here. Okay. Suppose it helps if I start on the first slide here. So I'm going to look at or tell you a little bit about our program philosophy and a little bit of an overview of the program in general. So specifically, we'll look at the philosophy, some of the goals and guiding principles that we have, and sort of like where we're coming from and why we do what we do, and how some of these pieces all fit together. I am going to show you an overview of the curriculum, sort of in a chart format, so that you can, for those of you that are visual learners, you might like that. And then the last thing I'll do is tell you about, we call our curriculum a context relevant and integrated curriculum. And I will explain what the heck that means, because that's very confusing for a lot of people as they enter this world. So this is our program philosophy well, technically it's an excerpt of it. It's very, very long. So I didn't want to give you all of the nitty-gritty details around that. I think this does it enough. So basically, what it's saying here is that our program is committed to the improvement of quality of life through nursing practice, education, research, and service to the greater community. And to fulfill its obligation, the faculty endeavors to promote nursing science and prepare competent and compassionate practitioners. Mindful of the larger obligation to promote societal health and wellness, the faculty seeks to educate nurses to provide innovative and effective responses to advance health. And the faculty's views of humans, health, environment, nursing, and learning reflect the academic plan of the university. So you see here that we touch on, of course, the education of students. That's an obvious one, but also there's linkages to the community at large, and also the ever important alignment with U of C's direction. It's very important to know both the U of C strategy and ours, so that you can sort of understand how we fit into the university's direction. So sticking on the philosophy theme, I guess you'd say, I'll give you, this is more of a historical perspective of kind of how we are where we are, and maybe some of the whys. So our current undergraduate nursing program curriculum was adopted in 2010, and this is always following a huge consultation with many, many stakeholders, and of course looking into best evidence around best practice for nursing undergraduate education and whatnot. So This curriculum was designed to meet the needs of the 21st century in healthcare as we saw them at that time. So of course things change, and because things change, we are currently revising our curriculum, and hopefully within the next 2 years we will have a new curriculum that I will tell you about in that time. But right now, of course, I'm going to talk about our current one, but just kind of know in the back of your mind that it's currently being revised. So we, like I said earlier, we are aligned with the U of C strategy and the goals, and as well as with the provincial nursing direction. So we're always keeping our eye on many, many things and making sure that, you know, of course, that we're not off in left field doing what we think is important when U of C and the province is going, hey, no, it's actually this. And so we're always aligning ourselves with sort of, you know, the bigger goals of the different communities of which we're a part. So we have one curriculum that's offered to all students across all cohorts that we have. And it basically consists of 4 core nursing courses per term, except for term 8. And I'll tell you about term 8 in a second. Term 8 is that final focused preceptored term, which you probably all went through regardless of what university you went to. So the program of study in the undergraduate nursing program consists of 6 terms of core nursing courses, and that's terms 3 through 8, which students in all 3 entry routes of our program are required to complete. And just, I probably told you all this in the interview, but we have 3 ways that students can enter our program. It can be through the direct entry route, which is the high school route. They can come in through a transfer program, which means they have a certain number of university courses, but not a degree. And then the third way is a degree holder route. And that is, as the name implies, they've already got a degree. And so we are, you know, their second undergraduate degree or something like that. And so depending on the route of entry, it determines the length of time that they're in the program. And don't worry, there's not a test on this, but just so you know, again, I'll refresh your memory. If they come in from high school, if they're the direct entry student, they do the full 4 years, the traditional fall, winter semesters times 4. If they're transfer students, they can come in either in September or January, and they do a 6-month, I might be off on that by 2 months, 26 or 28 month degree. So they basically, you know, start in term 3, they skip year 1. And they go a bit faster. And then degree holders only start in the winter, and they do 24 months nonstop until they're done their whole thing. So I know that all sounds very confusing. Don't worry about it. All it means is that you may have a cohort of direct entry and transfer students, or it may be mixed with some degree holders in there. All that's to say is you're going to have you probably most likely will have a mixed cohort of students, you know, with range of experience and age and previous education. And then the core nursing courses, which are in terms 3 to 8, they reflect the Bachelor of Nursing program learner outcomes, which we have them. Those, you'll become familiar with that language once you see the course outlines, and refresh your memory. You would have all had them when you did your degrees as well. And all these outcomes are aligned with the provincial CARNA entry to practice competencies. And those, of course, are there to ensure that students are ready for future nursing practice when they graduate. So it's really hard to discuss the goals and guiding principles of our faculty without talking about our strategic plan. So I'm not going to reiterate all of that though, because I know Dr. Davidson is covering this in her session. So if you haven't seen hers yet, depending on what order you're going through these, she will cover the strat plan and the vision, mission, and core values and whatnot that we have in our faculty. So I just did a little screen capture of it here just to remind you that, you know, everything is linked, but to keep the time down here, I'm not going to go through it again. We've just revised our strat plan and our vision and mission, et cetera. And it's I don't know why I'm saying this, but I don't even know why I think this, but it's my favorite one that we've had so far. I think it's really reflective of sort of the times that we're in and the direction that we're going, and it's very consumable and whatnot. So, you know, in all your free time, you can go to our website and download as much as you would like to about this strat plan, just to sort of understand maybe a little bit more about the place that you're working and what we value here. Okay, so I said I was going to jump back to that integrated and context relevant idea. Okay, so what in the heck does that mean? So essentially, I like to explain it best through examples. So if you think of, for example, when this curriculum was initiated in 2010, marijuana wasn't yet legal, and certainly COVID wasn't there. So things in life happen, right? And so when things in life happen, like say the legalization of marijuana, that becomes a really important thing for us to integrate into our curriculum because it's very relevant for nurses. It's very relevant to healthcare. And so, you know, if we have this fixed curriculum that has no room to integrate real life context and real life things that are happening, we would not be able to integrate that idea into our curriculum. So by having an integrated and context relevant curriculum, it's exactly as that would describe now that I've given you that example, right? So now we take that idea of legalized marijuana and we incorporate it into our, you know, relevant courses. And sometimes these concepts can appear across many terms at, you know, sort of different levels. Than just even one, you know, showing up one time. And so that's one of the examples. That's not the only example for sure. There's lots of others that I could provide, but that to me is the best way that I always understood integrated and context relevant. We also have a curriculum that spans the lifespan. That's kind of hard to say. And so we try to integrate, you know, ideas where appropriate across the lifespan as well. So that's really all that means. It's kind of fancy language, just to sort of just mean what I described there. So here is a busy slide. Don't worry about it too much. It's more meant to show you where you fall and sort of how the terms are laid out. So in case you don't remember, well, okay, so you see at the top, if you read down on the left-hand side and then across, that's kind of the way you do it. And so you see that we start here at term 3. That's because terms 1 and 2, their first year, if they're coming from the direct entry route, are spent largely away from our faculty. They go and do all the required courses that they need, like anatomy and physiology and philosophy option and, you know, all those kinds of things. Get all of those out of the way. And then by year 2, term 3, that's when we see them. So we call all of our semesters terms, just in terms of the languaging. So you see here term 3 for a direct entry student, this would be the first semester of their second year. And then if you read across, these are all the courses that they're taking. And you see there's 4 core courses, right? And the reason there's 4 and not 5 is because all the 8, 9 courses count for 2. So they really are considered to have a full course load because one of their courses counts for 2 courses. And so I've highlighted all the 8, 9 courses, and you'll see that they increase in number as you go down through the terms, which sort of makes intuitive sense because that's what you are either in term 3 or term 5 or term 7 right now, because those are the only terms that we're running that you would be working in. And so they all have the same catchy name as you see it, but basically any 8, 9, or I should say, or 9, 9 course, those are also, they're all clinical courses. And so that's your cue, you know, the numbering is always the cue. And then if you see the 8 on the second to left-hand column, there's 285, 385, 485, etc. Those are all of a similar type of course, all around the discipline and profession of nursing. And so as they increase in terms, they get sort of more complex and diverse materials that they're given, but they're all within that same sort of theme, I suppose. Now the 8-7s and 9-7 courses, so that's the next column over, those are all, again, they're all sort of, they've all got the STEM that's the same, the science of health. And then you see that each term that they go through has a different focus. We try to match the focus of their theory courses with what they're learning in clinical. Now that doesn't always work very well, but sometimes it really does. So for example, in term 3, you see that they're learning about the science and health of communities and populations. And they're also, that's also their clinical focus is in the community health setting. So that's what we try to do. Of course, when you get to term 5 and 6, when we're into the acute illnesses and chronic illnesses, you know, if they're on a if they're learning about diabetes, then they may be on a cardiac unit, so they may never actually see a diabetic patient, but still that's why it doesn't always match up, but that's sort of where it's at. So just really briefly then, term 4 is all about families in transition, and clinically students will be in, they will have a few weeks in an early childhood environment, and then several weeks in a long-term care facility as well. Term 5 is acute care, so med-surg practice placements. Same with term 6, it's med-surg practice placements, but it's a chronic health theory component that they're getting there. So just sort of, looking at it from a different lens. And then in term 7, as some of you are in, that's where we get into the specialized options. And so here's where we see that students have one of 5 focus areas to choose from. That is perinatal, oncology, child health, older adults, and which is essentially med-surg placement, and mental health and addictions is the 5th one. And then term 8, their final focus, none of you are in that. That tends to be filled internally most of the time, but that's their final preceptor term where they don't really have any classes. They have a seminar, but not classes per se. And it's almost all preceptored hours for that. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more of an outline of it. Of course, the more, if you want to take a deep dive on any of this, it's all on our website. I can't imagine that really that is top of priority for you right now, but in case you want to, it's all there. And then the last slide I wanted to share is just to show you how our terms are laid out over the year, because we don't run every term every semester. And so fall, as we see coming up here, we run term 3, 5, 7, and 8. And then in winter, we run term 3 again, we run term 4, term 6, and term 8. And then in the spring, which is just May, June, we have term 4 and 7, and then summer, we don't run any courses. And so I give that to you more just a visual to, sometimes when you're thinking about, oh, I'd really like to work in both fall and winter, well, that's where your options are, right? Like that you can't decide I want to work term 4 in fall because we don't run term 4 in fall and that kind of thing. So that you really get a handle on this quickly as you work with us a little bit, but this is basically how the year is set up academically. And of course, this will change once our curriculum changes, but for now, this is how it works. So that's kind of all I was charged with covering. You're just at the tip of your learning right now, so don't worry, you'll have much more to learn and figure out, and it will become much more clear as you sort of traverse this landscape here. Please reach out to me. My contact information is there in front of you. Got a caveat with the phone. I don't actually have an office at the moment because of all the renos that are happening. So hopefully I will get it soon, and that will be my number. But if you're trying to contact me in the first week or so of classes, it might be best just to use my email. And then my admin assistant is a wonderful lady named Brenda Bodie, who you may have met already. And she is the way to get to me fastest, quite honestly. She has complete control of my calendar, much more control than I have of it. And so she can also help you get in to see me if that's what needed, or a phone call or whatever. So don't suffer in silence is what I always tell people. There's an answer to every question. Hopefully you're starting to learn about who your go-to people are. And trust me, I can't answer every question, but you can certainly ask me and I can direct you in the right place until you get your legs under you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this, even though you probably didn't really have a choice. But I hope you enjoy your time with us at the university. It's a funny time to be starting given COVID and the remoteness of everything, but we're so thankful to be going back into clinical and to having all of you guys assist our students in reaching, their program learner outcomes and course goals and all those kinds of things, and educating our future nurses. So thanks again, everybody. I hope to see you in the hallways soon, or at least over Zoom, if not that. And like I said, reach out anytime. Thanks a lot.